Hey everyone, I'm glad you're here with me today. Thank you for taking your time, and thank you very much for your support. I have talked about how Southern California is past due for a large earthquake, about 350 years. Well, recently, an article came out, research came out back in 2022, actually documenting why there hasn't been any large earthquakes down there in Southern California. Because of the lack of these earthquakes, earthquake pressure has built up for what would normally probably be a moderate to large earthquake to end up being a very large earthquake. Yeah, that tension is not being released and it's continuing. Here I have an image of the Salton Sea. Originally, it used to extend all the way from Palm Springs to close to El Sorrento. I don't know if you can see the dotted lines here on this map, but this is the outlying shore of the Salton Sea during times of flooding. Before the Colorado River was tamed by dams and dikes and was free-flowing. During flooding, the river would often change course, sometimes dramatically. Though it typically flowed south to the Gulf of California, and years prior to the flood, it would flow into the Salton Sea Basin and fill it up to form what we call Lake Cahuilla. Since about 612 BC, Lake Cahuilla has filled up several times, the last time in 1733. The flooding Colorado River would create a huge lake that stretched from what is now Palm Springs, California, in the north, as well as beyond Mexicali, Mexico, in the south. Before the damming up of the Colorado River, the Colorado River would flood seasonally, and during 6 of these periods in the last 1,100 years, the Colorado flowed unabated into the Salton Trough and filled Lake Cahuilla to an elevation of about 40 feet. When it filled the Colorado River water, the lake would be 100 meters deep at the deepest part, which would be about 330 feet. It would have an elevation of 13 meters or 40 feet above sea level. It would dry up when the Colorado reset its course towards the Gulf of California. Archaeological evidence shows how American Indian populations adapted to the changing lake. The Cocopa and the Cahuilla would live along the shoreline and fish when the water was high. The Cahuilla are known historically to farm the bottomlands when the lake wasn't there. The Salton Sea Basin is at the southern end of the San Andreas Fault System. A San Diego State professor in geology, Thomas Rockwell, did some studies and found that when the lake was full was when the earthquakes occurred. Most of the earthquakes on the southern San Andreas Fault occurred while the lake was full, he said. He said the weight and the pressure of a full Lake Cahuilla would weaken the strength of an earthquake fault, making it more likely to fail. The Salton Sea was created in 1905 when the Colorado River breached a dike and flooded part of the basin. There has been a lot of talk about restoring the Salton Sea. It has been used to sustain through farm runoff, and it is important to migratory birds. But today, in its natural state, he says that the Salton Sea will be entirely dry one day. One of the largest faults in the world is the 800-mile-long San Andreas Fault. It marks the meeting of the North American Plate and the Pacific Plate in Western California. In the southern section of the Salton Sea to Parkfield, California, it has been historically quiet, and that's not good. The pent-up energy, when released, could cause catastrophic damage to nearby populated cities. Thomas Rockwell, who is on the right here, and Riley Hill recently released a paper about the pent-up energy, the locked zone there by the Salton Sea. USGS estimates a high probability that an earthquake of a magnitude 6.7 or greater could occur in the next 30 years in the Los Angeles area. The new study, which was actually being researched back in 2022, but only released today, Wednesday, June 8th, 2023, says that the earthquake activity along the southern San Andreas Fault over the last 1,000 years, earthquakes have occurred about every 180 years or so, give or take 40 years. And they coincided with high water levels of the nearby Lake Cahuilla. They asked the question if previous earthquakes on it occurred every 180 years, plus or minus 40. Why is it that we are sitting on 300 years without an earthquake? Understanding the history of its fault and what may have caused ruptures in the past helps us inform our understanding of what might happen in the future. Using a computer model that simulated how a full lake affected the fault, they found that high water levels in Lake Cahuilla prompt activity along the fault in two aspects. First, the weight of the lake caused the crust beneath it to bend, unlocking the plates so that they don't touch as much. The lake water also seeped into the cracks and pores in the earth crust beneath it, increasing the fluid pressure inside the fault and further unclasping the plates. It just shows you how man's activity on the earth has created a lot of different earth changes, such as less earthquakes now. That can be both good and bad. Without the smaller earthquakes to release the pressure, it just means more pressure has built for an upcoming large, very large earthquake. This here is an image of the North Shore Beach and Yacht Club. They have a plan to help restore some of the wetlands and put in a berm to create a deep area of water offshore for yachts. The bad news is that there is plans to refill the lake, and Hill is worried that if you suddenly rapidly increase the filling of the lake, that might actually cause seismicity. And he says that it would be really bad for the area because we already know that so much stress has accumulated on that fault there. Here's another image there from the same area, one street over from where they want to put in that yacht club. Exiting Google Earth, here's the location. This is the yacht club. This here is a hotel that's been abandoned, and yeah, it's just deteriorating. Yeah, it's probably should be torn down. But I'm going to turn this around and zoom out a bit. And we'll get the proper directions. And I'll show you these different fault zones that I have. If I can get this to work. Drawn out. Okay. Let's come out more. Let me just use this here. Okay. Yeah, we got the San Andreas Fault that runs into and becomes part of this San Jacinto Fault. I believe, I could be wrong, but the last time there was a large earthquake in this area was along the San Jacinto Fault, and that was in 1954, and it was a magnitude 6.4. It cracked plaster as far as San Diego, knocked plaster from the ceilings in Los Angeles City Hall. In Palm Springs, it says, a water pipe broke and walls of several swimming pools were cracked. Part of San Bernardino experienced a temporary blackout when power lines snapped in the shaking. And Indio, Chochila, probably pronouncing that wrong, also experienced minor damage. The shock was felt as far away as Ventura County, Baja California, Las Vegas. So what are your thoughts? Please put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Always be prepared for a disaster. You just don't know when it's going to happen. And I thank you for your support. As always, please stay safe, and I will talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.